where the drama starts. Lap 30, 8 laps to go. Sam Doby hoping to take advantage of these lapped cars. Pileski dives onto the right side, very aggressive here. This is lap 4. The two Viceroys, Bill Frazier ahead of Matt Pileski. Frazier's off. Frazier hit the grass. You hit that tire wall, your day is done. Now it's lap 20. The Williams still trying to get around the Terrell team as he'll go around the left car and around those at the same time. At the same time, he's got the inside corner of Willie Red curb. Yes, he will. He will get him on the inside. Vito Maria leading us all into Moss's corner. Look at the beauty as his right side will cook the grass. A 180, no, a 360. Oh. Who will yield going into this corner? It's really not meant for too wide as it will be Gernot. Gernot will yield. Lots of smoke picking up from that Williams car. He is pushing it to the absolute limit. 26 of 30 now. Only 4 laps to go. He's going to get the run coming out the final corner. He's going to pull up side by side with the leader. It's going to be a drag race to the finish. Who is going to get there first? It's going to be...
France, the birthplace of Grand Prix racing. It's been a pleasure finally having this country's first circuit appear on the iRacing service, and what's more appropriate than Le Mans? Well, when we talk about Formula One, though the Bugatti circuit has been used, this 24-hour layout certainly never saw these Lotuses tackle it. Today, the virtual world gives us a chance to experience what that may have been like as we get ready to watch Round 7 of the Lotus 79 Classic Teams Championship, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Stefan Schlacher. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Steph, for the European race fans, Le Mans needs no introduction, but in case some of our American viewers may be seeing this place for the first time, tell us a little bit about it.
Well, Joe, it's a one-of-a-kind track in a one-of-a-kind place. Le Mans, situated about 200 kilometers away from Paris, is the hotspot for sports car racing every June for the past 96 years. Back then, wildly different, the spirits still remain. High speeds of over 180 miles per hour are easily reached in modern Le Mans prototypes around here. The trickiest part around the Circuit 24 du Mans is setups. 80% of this track is long straights broken up by slow and rather tight turns. However, coming out of the Virage del Nage, that changes, as after a short straight the Porsche curves await, leading back onto the front stretch. So as you can see, to drive this track is not the challenge, however to race it is a vastly different story. Drafting will play a major role on the straights, while downforce will also be key to be fast through the Porsche curves. Finding the right formula is key to success in the French hotspot racing in June. However, the key to a successful GSRC broadcast is, as always, the GSRC Lap Guide.
All right, we've got Johan Noor-Lampe in the GSRC Lotus 79, so let's do a lap around Le Mans. Coming down the front stretch, it's nice and wide and there's plenty of room for dicing, but once you reach the Dunlop curve, you've got to get over to the left. Despite the amount of downforce on this car, you've got to already start braking so that you can get slowed up for the Dunlop chicane. Expect some passes here, but the entry can sometimes make it a little hairy. From out of there, you'll head under the Dunlop Bridge and into the Chapel Rundown. It takes some feathering on the throttle, and you'll want to hold it to the right to set yourself up for the Forest S's. Try to use the banking to really carry your speed. The exit of the right-hander takes a particular bit of care to make sure you don't loop the car. And then from there, really focus on hitting your marks for Tertre Rouge. This is easily one of the most important corners because if you botch this exit, you'll lose time all the way down the Mulsanne to the Forza chicane. You might be lured into trying to brake too deep for this corner, but resist the temptation. Since it empties back onto the Mulsanne yet again, it's critical that you get another good exit. Always look to find the power early. The same thing goes for the Michelin chicane. Do your best not to overshoot it on entry. It's the same as the one before, just mirrored so it's a left-right-left instead of a right-left-right. Be careful with the curb so that you don't unsettle the car either. From there, it's another decently long straight until you come to the frustrating braking for the Mulsanne corner. Because they added a roundabout here many years ago, there's a nasty kink right as you're trying to slow the car. Be careful not to drift it into the gravel because you'll want the best traction possible coming off the bend. You'll be flat out for a long time once again until you reach Indianapolis. Drivers will lift and start bleeding onto the brakes to scrub off speed while maintaining control into the tight 90-degree left-hander. Then you're immediately into Arnage, which is one of the slowest corners on the track. Be careful about the barriers to your left and then get on the gas. After the Busch curve, you'll hit the Porsche curves. They'll force you to bleed off speed as they tighten up. The real worry comes with bridge and the big blue wall on the outside. If you survive that, you come into karting, and the importance of the right line becomes more and more apparent. The last little left-hander invites you to use up the runoff, but if you do, you're likely to get a slowdown penalty, so stay within the track boundaries. Maison Blanche just weaves you back and forth real quick, and now you're heading into the final few corners of the track. The fourth chicane offers a unique challenge in that the first left-right is relatively quick. Then, the second one tightens considerably and has much taller curbs. Try your best to find traction once more, and hopefully you've now finished a lap around Le Mans.
They see a truncated lap around Le Mans because it takes a long time to get down these straights. You'll get a sense of that as this race goes on for sure. Now, let's take a look at the championship, starting with the Sunday Grand Prix series. The driver standings for that has Alexi Loma up at the top. Matt Wood now only 7 points behind Alexi. Steve Bycroft, Suarez, and Mikus are well behind them, but we are still with 6 rounds left, including today, so half the season left to go. They could still get in it, but they're going to have to get some results, especially compared to Loma and Wood speed. What about the team's championship, Steph?
Well, Joe, as close it is in the driver standings, it is as close overall in the team's championship. Parmalat Racing still ahead with 178 points to their name. Equipe Renault Elf with Wood and Simpkins behind the wheels, 12 points behind. And then we have Ferrari in third place, 27 points behind. Equipe Double Chitan, 42 points behind. And then we also have Marlboro McLaren International, still fifth, sitting 57 points behind your current leaders.
Now, in case you've never watched the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix series, here is our race details for today's race. We are in round 7 out of 12, as I mentioned, and it's only 12 laps that they're doing around here because the laps do take so long. The cars are open setup. We heard Steph talking about some of the challenges that come with this circuit and this car and trying to do that. And then they still have an incident limit in this series. Now, thankfully, it's a little bit harder to rack them up here around the mall, even with the paved runoff, but you can still get disqualified if you abuse that too much. Right now, we're waiting for the first qualifying laps to come through, Steph. I'm seeing a few of them head through those Porsche curves you were talking about, which are very street course-like in some parts through here.
Oh yeah, most definitely. They wanted to retain a little bit of a street vibe through here with the rather tight track surface as Gern Fridge is now coming through the fourth chicane. Rob Olenek is going to be the first one to finish his lap as he now comes through the chicane de Coromont. And he sets in a 38.069, but gets beaten by Alexi Loma, 36.0154, puts him on top ahead of Matt Wood, 2/10 between them.
Yeah, they're all coming across at once, but concerning it's 3:36, they get about 8 minutes. So they're going to have just barely enough time, if I'm seeing right, to get that second lap in.
Yep, pretty much. The good thing about Le Mans is you don't have to do a full warm-up lap. You start just after the Virage Corvette, so that is the last left-hander of the Porsche curves.
So Loma with the first best lap time. We're still waiting on a number of them to come across. I see Frazier tends to be fast, waiting on him. See Nicholas Morelli waiting for him to come across. So 21 cars do have a time down. So watch John Stevens fly down the Mulsanne. Frazier does cross for his first one and up to 8th for the number 8 car.
Yeah, and one guy I want to mention here real quick, that is Théo Schleret, the number 19 car, a Frenchman, so he is in his virtual home country, and he is right now sitting 5th place with the number 19 ahead of Gernot Fritsch, who's 7th place. So yeah, not too far away either from first place, which is just about 2 seconds.
Yeah, Théo is the only one, rather.
Oh!
From France, he's not going to be able to get a second lap, unfortunately, it looks like, so he pulls over. Going to watch Koroglu start to get his speed up instead. Now heading through the Michelin chicane and out the other side. a little bit more tidy than what we saw there from Teo. Down to 2 minutes left. Some of these drivers might not make it to the end, it seems. See, looks like Wood, Aloma, Bycroft still going, trying to improve. Rob Olenek as well, who's been fast in pretty much every of the retro series we've been covering lately. Robert Simpkins heading towards Indianapolis, the fast right-hand entry into a tight, slow, banked left-hander.
Let's be honest, though, pretty much the only two guys who will be challenging for that pole here today will be Alexei Loma and Matt Wood. They have about a full second to third place, Steve Bycroft. And they are, as far as I can tell, in qualifying pretty much head-to-head right now. Obviously, virtual head-to-head because they are in lone qualifying. But Matt Wood and Alexei Loma, they are gonna come over the line pretty much at the same time.
So right on board with the Finn, working through bridge all the way up to the edge of the track, daring to flirt with that big blue wall. Now through karting and out of Maison Blanche. Let's see what kind of time they can put down. Just about 30 seconds left, so this is going to be awful tight for most of our drivers trying to get that second lap in. And again, there is a bonus point in this championship for pole position. So there is incentive for these drivers to put it on top, even though it's going to be a draft race today. Aloma and Wood across the line. Wood improves, but Aloma does too. So he is going to stay on the pole by nearly half a second over Matt.
Yeah, half a second, and then it's Steve Bycroft in third place, who loses nearly a full second once again to Matt Wood. Rob Olenek fourth place, and he himself also losing about half a second to Bycroft.
And that's going to be it. Time runs out, so the rest of our drivers are not able to get a lap in. Let's go through your starting order for today. On the pole, it is Alexei Aloma with Matt Wood next to him. Then in row 2, the inside has Steve Bycroft, Rob Olenek starting in 4th. Antti Lepisto will be P5. Gurno Frisha starting in 6th, and Teo Slorette in 7th. Adam Frazier will be starting P8. 9th goes to John Stevens. And Pablo Suarez rounds out your top 10.
As the Patroid of Fawns make their way over our starting grid, Errol Koroglu will be lining up in 11th place, Timothy Reed 12th, Robert Simpkins 13th, Ben Laughter 14th, Keith Turner and Daniel Banker will round out row 8, Fabian Gerber 17th, Steve Salles 18th, Barry West 19th, and Bill Tyler will round out your top 20 of this field.
21st goes to Peter Koneski with Todd Herner in 22nd. Then it's Robert Plumley in P23, the last car to get a time in qualifying. Flavio Saturnino, Chris Bauman, Marco Van Wise, Johnny Bell, Adnan Dizdarevich, Nicholas Morelli, Pablo Rangel, Sergio Morales, Florian Nidell, and Chris Bean round out the rest of your fields that are just going to have to start according to their iRating. And unfortunately for most of those that I just listed, they are going to have to start in the midst of the final chicane with this standing start. Not something that they have to deal with in the real Le Mans, but it's certainly going to be tricky for those trying to steer the wheel and put the throttle down as soon as that green flies. We're just waiting on Aloma and Lepisto, the last of the Finns, to work their way out there. Then we'll go racing for 12 laps here around Le Mans. With that, they take to the grid. The engines start to rev. The lights come up. Green flag is out here in France. Aloma, whose weaknesses have been the start, once again finds himself overwhelmed with Matt Wood getting up to the front. In fact, he's going to lose second place because there goes Steve Bycroft as they come down to the Dunlop chicane. Rob Olenek taking a look, fighting back for second. There goes Aloma getting through. Everybody bunching together. A little bit of 3 wide, and we got an accident in the back, it looks like.
Yeah, everyone able to avoid that one. That is Johnny Bell being spun around right before the first chicane. But apart from that, everything very clean and very fast. Gerhard Friedrich, he himself also had a blistering start, but then got boxed in by Olenek and Lepisto, so wasn't able to advance from his 6th position on the grid.
Matt Wood with a little bit of mistake through the Forest S's means that now Alexia Loma already gaining on him. And they've started to break away from Bycroft. That could be critical. You can see Bycroft himself with a big gap back to Lepisto. This is what they want to try and keep from getting draft trains going. But the big worry here on this first lap, Steph, I'd say, are those slowdown penalties.
Most definitely, Marco van Wisse was the first one to run into problems with the slowdowns there, and he lost a good chunk of time, probably about 6-7 positions actually from his starting grid. So yeah, he really did, I would say, bite the dust.
Look at them all snaking their way down the Mulsanne straight, still being led by Matt Wood. Aloma didn't attempt to try and take the position. Right on board with Freesia now. He doesn't want to lose touch with them. He tends to be one of the ones fighting for position. What happened?
John Stevens with a miracle save through the first part of the second chicane. Outbrakes himself, loses the rear to the infield, narrowly avoids the Armco barrier, and somehow keeps it all together right behind Babo Suarez.
Wow, and look at them all now starting to jockey for position as they come up to the Mulsanne corner. Everybody hoping to try and outbreak one another, but they've got another long straight as they now head towards Indianapolis. Building up speed, 190 miles per hour that they're reaching up at the top of the field before finally getting on the binders. Matt Wood looking very good over Aloma now, actually separating himself by 0.7 of a second over Aloma. Out of Arnage, they now start to work towards the Porsche curves. Bycroft's not able to really reel them back in.
In the background, Barry West into a barrel sent through Verastanage.
You can see he's on his lid in the gravel, so he has to take a tow. There's no way he can get that car flipped over. Let's see what happened here.
That is going to be with Chris Baumann, who just completely lost his composure on the brakes, and then the ever so slightest touch to the rear of Barry West sends him up.
Well, we've also got the replay for Bell, who got a good start. Someone got a horrible start back there that he just weaved by that we saw. Now, how did he have the accident down into Dunlop? Oh, he lost it on his own.
Yeah, that can happen through the Dunlop corner. But yeah, very interesting mistake by Johnny Bell nonetheless.
Also had a mistake we don't need to go back to. Nicholas Morelli fell down the order after going wide into the Porsche curves. Had to let a bunch of cars by. That leaves him in 30th position. We're looking at our two leaders, and Aloma has recaught Wood after losing those 0.7 of a second. I guess we can't make too much drama out of them falling back within about 1.5 seconds, Steph, because it doesn't seem like that's too much of a worry for the drivers, at least.
Yeah, no. You know, Alexi Loma and Matt Wood, they already showed in qualifying how much faster they are than the rest of the field. So it is not surprising that Steve Bycroft and further down cannot keep up with these two. Alexi Loma seems to be quite comfortable in the draft here. And yeah, no, I think it is going to be the fight between those two and then pretty much the best of the rest fighting for third place. And coming back to that mistake of Morelli, you saying he went wide. Going wide is one thing. He nearly hit the outside wall of the Porsche corner. And if you know how far that one is away, then you know that he nearly went to Paris.
And what happened to Frazier here? He was off track. Was this in one of the chicanes?
Let's have a look then on Adam Frazier.
Forza chicane.
Ooh.
Wow, he came in too hot. And it spun around. Let's watch it from above, see if that gives us a better angle.
Yeah. He's going to lose it right around the middle of the corner there on the back end and then just over the curb. The curb didn't send him the other way, just he overreacted on that one and just spun himself around.
It's not awfully cold conditions, so I'm surprised we're seeing drivers struggle out here with stuff like this. It's about 92 degrees Fahrenheit, but clearly trying to keep the car underneath you has been tough, as we've also had Van Vissa spin around at one point. Don't need a replay. That was into the Dunlop chicane. These are two leaders who are not having any such problems, continuing to gap Bycroft in third behind them. It is now 2.2 back there, but Loma is keeping Wood honest.
33 degrees Celsius, that is on the track for you Europeans out there. As Gernot Friedrich makes a little bit of a mistake into Indianapolis, and Antti Lepistö had to give up the position over Rob Olenek in that fight for fourth position.
Yeah, it is a very close fight for P4. Rob Olenek is leading that train. He's the dark car that you'll see right there with Gernot Friedrich behind him. Teo is in 7th, and then in 8th, that is Suarez off in the distance. Did we have something with Herner? Sounds like he had an issue. Looks like he also spun himself. That happened out of Indianapolis. So this really is the fight we want to be with. Loma still staying right with Matt Wood. So, Stefan, put yourself in Loma's shoes. Do you think he's just biding his time and waiting for an opportunity to be able to maybe pounce on a mistake and break the draft, or what do you think he's doing here?
I think right now he's just looking at where am I stronger, where is he stronger, that kind of game. But with Loma, we never really know what sort of setup he's using. High downforce, low downforce, it always depends, as Matt Wood also did put in a new fastest lap of the race. Right now, I would kind of say that he's on a little bit of a higher downforce setup, which is going to leave him a little bit vulnerable on the straights. We only have 12 laps around here. That being said, we're only in lap 3 now. So my honest guess is that he just looks, how much do I need to throttle to stay in behind him, but still close on him? And then at one point, it probably will be up to Indianapolis, where he sets himself up for that pass and then through the Porsche curves tries to make the gap so that Wood cannot come back anymore. But we're probably talking here about the last lap pass.
That's what I would suspect. And certainly isn't really making any moves or attempts, which has got to be making Matt Wood a little bit nervous. You can see the angle that he probably sees out of his mirrors through the wing, seeing that bright orange and white Lotus 79 just stalking him everywhere he goes around this track. Also, Teo Schleret has managed to get up into 6th, past Gernot Friedrich recently. So next on his list is going to be Lepistö, but Lepistö actually might not be the next one up because he's just overtaken Rob Olenek as they come to the Michelin chicane. Made that look easy with the draft giving them the opportunity. Also having a battle behind them with Adam Frazier, who we know is a little bit out of place. He's down 12th. He's being chased by Simpkins, Stevens, Reed, Laughter, and Konecki all together. A huge train of cars. There you can see them on screen.
Just about your 6-car battle there. Nothing special here. I know what you're talking about, Joe. As Timothy Reed has a little bit of a look. Oh, that is Robert Timkins with a major mistake there through Mulsanne corner. Let's see if John Stevens is able to pounce on that. Surely is on the inside as they now go underneath the Rolex sign.
Yeah, and you saw everybody react to follow Stevens through, but it didn't quite work how they expected. So now Timothy Reed behind them is being challenged by Laughter, and they're coming up to the braking for Indianapolis soon. Laughter is actually going to be able to get ahead, but he's boxed in behind Simpkins, and that's going to shuffle him back. So Laughter stays in 16th. Oh, a little bit off into the gravel for John Stevens. Doesn't lose the place that he just gained away from Simpkins. Now he's definitely going to lose it. Ooh, that car not looking good through the slower corners, and Stevens falls all the way to 17th.
Yeah, Ben Laughter had the double steam there, just once boxed in behind Timothy Reed and Robert Simpkins. who himself didn't look like he had much drive. So very interesting by Robert. Maybe he has too much downforce, or maybe he made his 6th gear so long that it doesn't have too much drive when he is not in the draft. We will have to have a look at that later on when we see him again in a draft, if that is the case or not, as we once again look at the battle between Matt Wood and Alexia Loma. And Matt Wood once again with... Oh, actually, Alexia Loma with a new fast lap.
Yeah, Wood clearly pushing, even though he's being trailed by Loma. They've continued to drop Bycroft, which is now 3.7 seconds. Worth noting that ever since Lepisto got by Olenek, he's pulled away from him. It's about 1.1 between the number 3 and the number 7. Not sure that's enough for him to actually break the draft. In fact, Olenek looking very good through the forest elbows. And they come onto the Mulsanne once more. I think he's going to be able to pull him in, but he's now got Schleret behind him. And Teo should be gaining pretty quickly. In fact, once again, easy draft pass down to the inside as they come up to the Forza chicane. And looks like that Olenek knows it, so he's going to lift. So that moves our lone Frenchman up to a top 5 now, having started this race in 7th.
I'm all for the Frenchman winning this, because the last time a Frenchman won the Le Mans 24 Hours is actually a few years ago.
It's certainly been a bit. And behind them, oh, that is Gernot Frische, who went a little bit too hot into the Michelin chicane, but doesn't lose the spot that he just took from Rob Olenek. Rob not seeming too concerned about everybody overtaking him. Ooh, and something with Fabian Gerber has caused him to go into the wall. This looks like the Michelin chicane bit another one.
And that is one of the few lone mistakes you can make around this track. Just a little bit too aggressive over the curb. Samson into a small spin with big consequences. Hits the wall hard, and that is his race done. The German's race is completely done. Fabian Gerber, one of 2 Gerbers we frequently do see on the GSRC broadcast alongside his brother, Tobias Gerber.
Yeah, and after yesterday's Camel race, this is just adding to the disappointment that Fabian is probably feeling this weekend. As we come back to this battle on screen. Oh no, and it's a big pileup. Frische, Slure, and Olenek all coming together. That damage is going to hurt their lap times drastically. Suarez is going to pick up the pieces as we watch the replay.
And with that, Theo Schleret most definitely not going to add to the tally of Frenchmen's winning around the Circuit de Vanguard Dumas, as the last one was in 2016 Dumas. But yeah, Theo Schleret, just a little bit of a mistake there through Arnage, and yeah, both Gernot Frische and Rob Olenek nowhere of avoiding that, as Frische wanted to go to the inside with a little bit of a switcheroo there. Seems actually like Frische was able to get away with the least amount of damage of the 3.
Yeah, just didn't quite clear him when he wanted to go underneath. And Gernot is running in 5th now. Suarez, surprisingly, still behind him. This, of course, means that he's dropped Lepisto, who is all on his lonesome up in 4th. Going to be a very boring race for Auntie and Steve there in 3rd and 4th. Oof, you can see the damage on Rob Olenek's car, too. That's Koroglu, who's coming up behind him. And he's going to feel the effects here now as they come under the Dunlop Bridge down in the Chapel Rundown.
A little bit further down, I've seen a very interesting battle. That is for P12. That's John Stevens, Robert Simpkins, Timothy Reed, and Peter Konisny. Still going very much at it as they now head through The assets coming back into Tet Rouge, where Timothy Reed seems to have a problem with his car as he goes very wide, and just Peter Konisny gliding by.
Yep, but now the speed starts to come back up. Does Timothy Reed try and take the spot back from Peter? Peter knows he's going to get this slipstream, so he weaves back and forth trying to break it, but that is quite fruitless, as here comes Timothy. But Timothy's going to lift, so Reed stays in P15, maybe hoping that they could recatch Simpkins and Stevens up in front of them.
Up ahead, Rob Olenek, feeling the damage very heavily on his front wing, just lost another position up to the Michelin Corps.
Yeah, Frazier went by, Koroglu went by, Schleret back behind him. Whoa. What happened?
That was quite a sideways moment for Schleret out of that Michelin chicane. But here he now comes past Olenek, and yeah, just shows how much damage Olenek has. A top speed of 284 kilometers an hour there.
Theo, I think slightly less damaged, at least when it comes to straight line speed, as he's already gone by the other driver involved in that incident. Keith Herner, the next one, about 2 seconds back. I guess in this case, do you think it's worth Rob coming in to get a few repairs, or is it sort of hopeless to try and do that at a track like this?
I would even say it's hopeless to do something like that with a car like this, because if I remember correctly, the damage doesn't really get fixed, and it actually takes a long time for any damage to get fixed on the front wing. So I think what Rob is right now doing is the best he can do in this situation.
Meanwhile, battle on screen, fierce battle on screen coming through Arnage. And now up towards the Porsche curves. This is, looks like Konecki, Reed, and Simpkins we were looking at? No. Oh, as we head back up front, this is Aloma still behind Wood. Only 0.3 back and still threatening, but we haven't had a move since. Aloma this time setting the fastest lap as they cross the line. Bycroft is now 6 seconds back. There you see the lap times for the first few laps between them. In fact, out of our 33 starters that we've had here today, we've had a few DNFs. Daniel Banker is out. Adnan Dizdarevich has left the track. Morelli and Rangel are back out, and they're trying to get some laps back after they had some problems. But then you've got Gerber, who's DNF'd, Bauman, who was gone, and Barry West as well. Everybody else is still running. Let's get a sense of the speed with these low cameras just over the front suspension on board, with Aloma, who closes in greatly down into the braking of the Forza chicane. We're not even halfway through this race quite yet. Oh, was there a slight slowdown for Aloma, or what happened here? He's dropping back. Interesting. Well, giving him space, maybe just making sure that he doesn't accidentally run into the back of his rival. As we come back to Frazier once again. Koroglu with him after they have left Olenek behind. This is a battle for P7. Coming along through the multiple chicanes that break up this long straight. And they work through the kink that heads up to Mulsanne corner. But Koroglu looking like he's also falling back a little bit. Certainly not going to have a chance to attack up into this right-hander.
I would honestly be surprised if Koroglu is able to keep up with Fraser. Let's not forget that Fraser had his spin that dropped him back quite a bit, and last lap that showed in the times between those two, as Errol was about 2 seconds slower than Adam Fraser.
We've had some decent movers here today, though some of them didn't put lap times in. If we look at 17th, Flavio Saturnino, starting from the back of the field without a qualifying time, 24th on the grid to climb up to 17th. Not a bad jump up, but then he's bested by Florian Nidell just a few places back in 22nd, 32nd position, nearly the very back of the field, and Florian up into the mid-pack now.
To quote one famous GSRC broadcaster, that's not the real hard charger though. The real hard charger right now is Peter Konisny with 21st up to 13th.
It's a good point, and climbing through there is no easy feat for Peter for sure. He's another one that's sort of all on his lonesome. There you can see he's got quite a bit of a gap to in front and behind. Doesn't mean mistakes can't be made or pace can't be upped around here. You look just behind him at this battle between Reed and Laughter. We're also trailing along Flavio Saturnino. Riding on board with Ben. Looking up at Tim Reed as they come out. Oh, and that's a slowdown penalty for sure. Reed a little bit too wide. And that's going to have to give up 2 positions, with Saturnino and Laughter sneaking through. Now at the halfway point, with 6 laps left to go, we ride on board with Saturnino, looking back at Timothy, trying to make up for his mistake, but nothing there coming into the Dunlop chicane. Maybe he'll have to set himself up for the Mulsanne.
I'm honestly surprised that we didn't see anyone trying to do something into the Dunlop chicane. That's, for me at least, it always was a prime overtaking spot because nobody really expected. Yes, you have to brake in this car. For most, it's even a little bit of a downshift there into 5th gear. But if you get it right, you can actually let yourself get hung out wide and really dive into that first apex, and it usually does the job done. Just today, we really didn't see that yet.
Oh, and we
Pablo.
just blew by. Yeah, Pablo Rangel. I noticed that he was possibly going to go a lap down, and he looked like he was struggling. He might have already had damage.
Yeah, he already had damage to his rear wing and just out of that second chicane. Just lost it on the throttle. No biggie, as he is still spun around. No, once again spun around.
Now he gets it going. Took about a 50-point turn, but eventually he gets it pointed the right direction. And he's actually the last one running right now in 29th.
50-point turn, but that's because the Lotus 79 is just such a long car with such a extremely wide turnaround circle. So yeah, I'm not surprised that it took him that much on the narrow streets of Le Mans.
Ooh. Oh, no, I thought I was looking at someone else. It was Olenek who just got overtaken by Simpkins, so not really anything worth worrying about. That promotes Simpkins up to 13th. Olenek continuing to fall down to 14th now as we ride on board with Aloma.
Yeah, and one thing we're slowly starting to see is that Aloma has more downforce than Matt Wood, as Matt Wood consistently about 10 kilometers an hour faster than Alexi Aloma in his draft, but Aloma always extremely closes in here. Look at how much more speed he can carry through the outside of this corner. That's the karting S's, and that's how you pass through there.
Now, what can he do from here, though? Can he try and pull a gap by the time they get to the Mulsanne? They are going to also have a long stretch down the pit straight. They weave their way through the Ford chicane. Loma, your new leader, having just taken over Matt Wood. Oh, and Wood struggling out of that chicane. This is bad news. He's got to get back up there and get within that slipstream.
Yeah, and now look at how much aero watch he will be experiencing through the Dunlop corner. Look at how much he has to slow down to not run too wide behind the car of Alexei Loma, and he's losing major times here already. That is about, let's see, 8/10 there between Aloma and Matt Wood. Aloma setting the new fastest lap of the race.
What an incredible calculated move from Aloma to do that when
Oh,
he did.
that
But
wasn't
Aloma is
calculated.
off. Did he actually hit the wall there?
No, he didn't, but that is going to possibly be some underside damage going through the very bumpy grass here.
Watching from on board, he was a little wide already at the first part of the forest elbow, and that put him shallow in the second part. Wow, that was inches to spare on the left side.
Yeah, you're saying this, and now Matt Wood, as we're still on the replay, is pretty much back under the rear wing of Alexei Loma, which most definitely will not help him, but I think come the Porsche corners, he will be once again trying to do something on Matt Wood and once again try to pull away.
Well, he's definitely gaining down the main straight. You know, I wonder if this isn't necessarily as it looks like he's going to get the spot very easily. I wonder if this isn't a difference in setup between them, or if instead maybe at some point we missed Aloma clattering over a curb, Steph, and he got some damage on the underside even before what we saw there just now with the grass.
No. I'm pretty certain that Aloma is just that much more on the downforce side of this setup, because let's face it, you're not gonna be that much down on speed, on top speed, and then just below by someone around the outside where a lot of marbles lay through the karting S. That is just down to how he has set up his car, and honestly I was expecting Aloma to once again go with a little bit of a higher downforce setup, because that has helped him to already quite a few wins here this season.
That's a good point. Forgotten about how he had made that move out in the gray stuff. Still staying with Matt Wood. He's going to have to pull something similar. I guess the good news for him is that he could make that move late in the final lap and not be re-attacked back for the win.
And picking up Timo Vasculampi there from the chat, it seems like Wood is that much faster because he has a higher ride height, which makes sense because of obviously all the underground forces that you produce with pretty much sealed off. So Alexei Loma low to the ground, Woods higher up the ground, creating that much higher downforce levels on Alexei Loma's car, and once again goes around the outside.
Well, he made that one with ease once again, so he's getting practice on making that happen. I almost wonder if that's actually a bad idea, as well, Wood's going to try and come back at him, but not brave enough on the brakes. Because if Wood knows where he's going to attack, could he maybe go defensive to try and deny him the opportunity?
Well, going once
I'll
again.
Take that as a no.
No. It seems like going off Timo here once again. The both have minimum wings, front and rear there. So I don't think that Matt Wood can defend on the outside, because once again, then Alexei just drives around the inside, which is going to be easier for him. So I guess you could try and see what happens. You're still going to be pretty much at the back of Alexei Loma by at least the end of the Uno Dier straight. So I guess it's worth a shot. You never know what happens.
Yeah, I don't know. Just spitballing here about potentially what he could do to try and hold him back, as we glance now at Keith Herner in 10th position. This is a battle with John Stevens. These two have been fighting for a little bit. Herner has already caused a... Well, excuse me. No, I was looking at the different Herners. Todd Herner that caused the ire of some of our other drivers. There were some complaints there in the chat from that. So apologies to Keith. I was remembering the incorrect information as they now come onto the Mulsanne once more. But Stevens looking a little far back here.
Yeah, they have most definitely dropped Peter Konieczny and Robert Simpkins off that 4-car battle. But sadly, they won't get anywhere near Theo Schleret, who is in 9th place, as he is still faster than both of them. But yeah, no, it seems like John Stevens is a bit better on the brakes here, so maybe he will be able to do something come second chicane or Mulsanne corner.
You know, taking a glance at 5th position, Suarez is starting to gain on Freesia. And it seems like he's gaining in big chunks. I wonder... Actually, Gernot does have damage on the front, if I'm remembering, because he was involved in that incident with Schleret. So this could be easy pickings for the number 10.
You are correct in that. It might be easy pickings, but once again, we're talking about Gernot Fritzsche, so anything is possible with him. And last lap, his lap was about 0.2 faster than Pablo Suarez. So even though Fritzsche has damage both on the front and rear of his car, it probably won't be easy pickings for Suarez, as Fritzsche is still mighty fast down the streets.
Yeah, it certainly seems like it. Suarez starting to gain now that he's in the slipstream, but he's not willing to risk it going too wide into Indianapolis. And this is where Gernot had that incident before, coming up to Arnage. Off of this 90-degree right-hander through the low speeds. Don't forget behind them, before we went on board, we saw little flashes of Adam Frazier, who's now back up to 7th. I wonder if he'll possibly get involved in this. We're going to be 3 to go at the line.
Yeah, and up ahead, I think it is time for Matt Wood to find something in his car that Alexei Loma doesn't have, because it seems like Alexei Loma is starting to run away with this lead now. The low right hates for Loma paying dividends now, as he really starts to streak away from Matt Wood. Last lap, the time difference is about 0.8 in favor of Aloma.
Yeah, that's not something that we talk about as often when we consider this course. This car rides so low. We have to remember part of this track is a street course. Does that make it pretty difficult to try and risk putting the car lower in case it bounces around and gets damaged that way?
Well, it might be a street course, but I think the tarmac is a lot smoother than actually also quite a lot of Formula 1 tracks that are full-blown circuits. So yes, it might be a concern for a car that is, I don't know, a sports car out of the era of the Lotus 79. But for the Lotus 79, this is going to be a problem, because this is a track that gets resurfaced every single year before the Le Mans 24 hours roll on.
Meanwhile, watching Saturnino and Reed. Also worth noting, you talked about Wood needing to find something. He's 2 seconds back from Aloma. He's lost the draft. He's absolutely got to hustle at this point. There you can see the gap on screen. Visibly growing between the two, but shrinking on the straights. Wow, he gained about half a second just on the run to Michelin. So with Aloma being quicker in the twisty bits and Wood being quicker on the straights, and this track offering both, it's going to be a big question mark about which one pays more dividends.
Well, Wood is 10 kilometers an hour faster than Aloma down the straights, but the thing is, Matt Wood has to slow down more than Aloma, speaking not only a total slowdown more, but also to a lower speed than Aloma has to. So Matt Wood has to accelerate more to get to the same top speed as Aloma, but he also has the higher top speed than Aloma, which is gonna even it out ever so slightly, but still Matt Wood is losing time and time again as Aloma goes a little bit wide, but even that doesn't really hurt his chances here.
But once again, Aloma wide at the apex this time. of Arnage, and that brings it down to 0.4 of a second. In fact, with the extra speed off the corner, there goes Matt Wood right on by. So Loma's going to have to repass him anyways in the portion where he is strong. Looks to the outside around the first part of the Porsche curve. Maybe it's getting a bit too many marbles there. That doesn't work there. Gets back in line. Now coming into karting. This is where he made the move before. Oh, and look at that. Just slightly off the apex. That's what I was thinking right there, Steph. Just making the car wide and making it difficult to choose a way around.
Yeah, Aloma tried to go to the inside, and that was most definitely the wrong move there, as Wood was still pretty much there. But Aloma, the first try that he did through Porsche corner, that was actually a genuine mistake by him, just running a little bit too deep on the brakes and going a little bit too wide. But still, Aloma didn't lose anything through that portion, which shows how much more downforce he generates with the lower right height. Now, Aloma, he has the fastest lap of this race by about 1/10 over Matt Wood. So on raw pace, Aloma will be untouchable for Matt Wood. The question just is, how much can he limit his mistakes, and to what extent can he limit his mistakes? Because most definitely, he is hurting himself quite a lot with those small little mistakes.
And the other Herner, Todd Herner, has had an issue because he's just towed. And it looks like this was contact with Pablo Rangel. This was very hard contact. We'll go to it. Actually, yes, it looks like we do have the replay up. And I think looks like, nope, we aren't able to find it anyways. Unfortunately, that also involved Pablo Rangel, and those two are definitely out of the race. Meanwhile, up at the front, there's been a bit of action between these two. We've been watching it much of the race, and Alexei Aloma has got some work to do. I've seen a number of mistakes now from Aloma into the corners. Does it look like he's overdriving to you a little bit?
I don't know if it's overdriving or just Aloma, but most definitely he's hurting his rear tires, and they are getting heat up a little bit and probably already losing a little bit of their lifespan. So Aloma is struggling most definitely out of the corners. Once again, goes a little bit sideways. It isn't uncommon in the Lotus 79 to go a little bit sideways out of slow turns, but Aloma, most definitely, he is losing his speed, as we're having a pass on the screen between Timothy Reed and Ben Lofter.
Saturnino's got definite damage. Look at the left front on his wing. It's bent up, but I'm seeing a tiny bit also from the car he's slotting in behind. Excuse me, it's Lafter with the damage, rather. Saturnino also with a slight bit. He's in the green machine, but he's still got speed as he closed back in on Reed, who leads this trio up in P14. Down through the Michelin chicane they go. We're getting close to the white flag lap, so as great as this battle is, we'll have to leave it pretty soon. See if we get an attempt from Saturnino. He's taking a look, but he thinks twice about it.
One thing I want to mention before we go to that final lap for our first place drivers is the guy in 5th place, which is Gernot Fritzsche. Just with his damage, still fending off Pablo Suarez and now also Adam Fraser. Masterclass performance by the Austrian.
I did not expect him to be able to do this, if I'm honest. In fact, he's holding a gap back to Suarez. It's become a battle for 6th place between Suarez and Fraser, if anything.
My goodness! That is a wreck, though. In 13th place for Ben Lafter, Saturnino, and Reed, as they also went past, I think that was Robert Simpkins. That was quite a mess there coming up to Indianapolis.
And it allowed the battling cars ahead of them, Simpkins and Konecki, to stretch away, as they could have been catching them. Wow. Yeah, absolute mess. But we've got to go to our leaders because it is the final lap now. And Aloma leads Wood, but they're coming up to the Mulsanne where Aloma has not been as quick as Matt Wood. So as the speeds start to come up, 170 miles an hour, 180 miles an hour, picking it up to 190 already between the two of them. Matt Wood goes to the outside. Aloma has no way to defend as he streams past him. Coming up to the first braking zone. Does Aloma just slot in behind or does he attack? He's going to stay back.
So in the case of Aloma, this was calculated. Obviously, you're not going to stay ahead of Matt Wood in just one lap. Now, Aloma has to try to stay as close as possible to Matt Wood following this straight, the next straight, and then obviously up to Indianapolis, because then comes your time. Find your way past through the Porsche curves and win this race. For Matt Wood, much different story. Try to get as far ahead as possible through all of these long straights, because you have no chance of getting or of holding Alexi behind you through the Porsche corners if he is too close on you. So very interesting how this is going to play out.
And even as close as he is, Aloma is about 5 miles an hour down on top speed from Matt Wood. They break through the Mulsanne. Just one more of the longest straights here up towards Indianapolis, and then it'll be mostly in favor of Aloma for the rest of the lap. He's down by 0.6 of a second. Is that too far back? I can tell you, let's stay with this, but Frazier got Suarez for 6th position, a little bit farther down in the pack. Aloma falling down to 0.9 of a second. He is hurting here on these long straights. The first set of slower corners, Indianapolis, and then Arnage. Matt Wood has it at about 0.8 of a second. Another little bit of a straight to maybe get him a breather. 0.7 of a second through there. Gained 0.2 just in those two corners. Alexi Aloma pushing as hard as he can to try and run down the number 2 to take this victory away. But here is where he can come back at him. But he's awful far back as they hit the first of the Porsche curves. Now into bridge. 0.8 of a second, 0.6 of a second, 0.2 in that one corner alone. Into karting. Matt Wood is struggling. Here he comes looking up to the outside, but he's not quite close enough. Out of karting now. He's running out of corners, pushing it very hard out of there. Matt Wood, did he get a slowdown penalty? No. He's going to stick with it. This is a last-ditch effort for Alexi Aloma. How brave on the brakes does he go? He gathers speed, but he is not quite close enough. Up to the final chicane, a little bit of a defensive move from Matt Wood, and he is going to take the win today here in France. Wow. Down to the final corner, and Matt Wood holds him off. Let's not forget Steve Bycroft, who gets a well-earned podium, although 12 seconds behind both of them. We talked about that battle between Suarez and Frazier. Frazier still tucked up behind the gearbox of Pablo.
Yeah, and ahead of them, Gernot Fritzsche able to easily glide into the finish in 5th place, but Suarez still has to defend off Frazier, makes that successfully through the Virage de Racamano.
Oh, Saturnino's just had a huge wreck. Watching a couple of our drivers try to settle out these positions ahead of him. Coming now through the last of the Porsche curves. Simpkins being chased. Oh, did Schleret just lose a position? Simpkins being chased by Konecki. This is for 12th position. Konecki not going to be able to chase him down. Laughter follows them home, and 14th as well. Timothy Reed fell well back from them after that incident that they had earlier on in P15. So let's see what happened with Saturnino. He was battling with someone.
Yeah, he was fighting with Ferrari there, as it seems, and hate to see it. I think you're right with Timothy Reed there. Was that Sal's?
No.
No, that was Ben
Prix.
Laughter there.
Oh, it was, yeah.
Laughter just didn't turn in that much as, I guess, Saturnino expected and just hits the right rear, and you hate to see it. He goes upside down and unable to finish this race here today.
What a miserable way. Just less than half a lap from the finish. We're going to take a break, though. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews. But stick around, because on screen you'll see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Welcome back to Le Mans. We just watched round 7 of the Lotus 79 Classic Teams Championship. It is the Sunday Grand Prix Series, and Matt Wood takes a victory here today. It was over Alexei Aloma, who fought him as best as he could with a different setup. But in the end, it was Wood's defensive driving that gifted him the win, considering how much Alexei was climbing all over him. Bycroft took third behind them. Let's not forget that gains him points in the championship as well, with Antti Lepisto taking fourth, Gernot Frische taking P5, and Pablo Suarez with a 6 out there. Adam Fraser was battling with him all the way to the line. It was a 7th for Adam, with Errol Koroglu in P8. Teo Schleret got involved in an incident with Frische as well as Olenek, and he has to settle for 9th with that damage. But John Stevens rounds out your top 10.
Keith Horner, after a very quiet race, finishes in 11th place. Nearly the same can be said for Robert Simpkins, except for having to fight all race long for that 4th position, and of Peter Konisny in 13th, Peter Laughter in 14th, and Timothy Reed in 15th. They all were part of that 4-car battle pack for that 12th place of Robert Simpkins, but as you can see on that screen, Robert Simpkins able to get away with that. Steve Salz finishes in 16th, Bill Tyler in 17th, and then a very unlucky Rob Olenek finishes in 18th after starting 4th after he got involved in that incident with Schleret and Gernot Frische. 19th went to Robert Plumley, our sole streamer right here in this race, and Marco van Wisse jumps up 6 positions from 26th to finish in 20th.
Nidell takes 21st today, with Chris Bean finishing 22nd, John Bell in 23rd, and Sergio Morales was the last of the drivers to finish on the lead lap. We did have lap cars. Unfortunately for Saturnino, that was because in 25th he wrecked out before he could take the finish line. Todd Herner 2 laps down in 26th, and then we get into drivers who actually DNF: Daniel Banker, Pablo Rangel, Nicholas Morelli, Adnan Dizdarevich, Fabian Gerber, shocking to see him down in 31st, Chris Bauman and Barry West at the tail of the field today. We've got Alexi Aloma ready to talk to us about that battle. And Alexi, it looked like your car wasn't quite as quick in a straight line, but you sure made good use of the grip that you had in some of these corners.
Yeah, I couldn't find how low downforce would be faster, at least overall. So I knew it would be hard in the beginning because everyone would pass me in the first lap. But yeah, I did one ghost race earlier today, so I kind of raced against Matt also in that race. So I kind of knew where I should try to pass.
Coming up on that final lap, since you did know a bit of an idea of where you could be strong, what was your plan on trying to pass him? Because it looked like you couldn't quite get to where you were before coming into the Porsche curves.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I missed some corner earlier a bit, so I had to be a bit closer before Porsche curves. And my last chance would have been in the last chicane, but I just couldn't get close enough there because I could brake a lot later with more downforce. And overall, like, what is lap 9 it was when I passed Matt and was able to pull away, and then I missed Indianapolis and everything, and it was all over again.
Hey Alexi, Stefan here. So taking away from this is that you were actually running more wing than the other guys, and not like Timo Vasculampi suggested in chat that you were just running lower right heights.
I was running lower right heights.
Okay, that makes sense then. So still a lowest downforce setting on the wings?
Yeah, pretty much. So, at least for a race.
Interesting stuff from Alexi Aloma, known fast driver. But Alexi, we have one question from our director, if anything. When was the last time you had an official race where you had the number 5 or lower than that? Because your iRating is pretty far up there.
It has been. I think it has been number 5 every race this season. So I would say 6 weeks already this season it has been number 5.
We've got some competition. Well, commiserations on not getting the win, but still another podium here today. That'll certainly help in the championship, sir.
Yeah, though it's Matt who I'm kind of fighting against, so he pulled away again. So I don't know. We'll see next season. Not next season, but next race if I can.
Well, it'll give the neutral viewer some excitement, at least from our perspective. That was Alexi Aloma, our second place finisher here today. And that means it is time to close up for us because nobody else came to interview with us, surprisingly. So we want to give a big thank you to the Lotus 79 community for bringing us back for another season of coverage once again. And also a thank you goes to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. And thanks to the team today, Stefan, Amjad, and Dougie, with a little help from Rim Ambrosi behind the scenes as well. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media. Our Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook, Global SimRacing Channel, and Instagram, GSRC_Graham. Don't forget, head on over to our YouTube page, because if you haven't subscribed yet, you'll see a big red button that says subscribe. Click that. You won't miss a moment here on the GSRC. The next race going over to Silverstone, but it's not the most recent version. They're going to the historic layout on the old Silverstone. That'll be Sunday, November 3rd at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. See you on the track.